The Derealize Mission. It grants the Barrow-Dyad Exotic, but also tells the story of a taken monstrosity that once battled the taken king. The Dread are after this new taken power, and the Guardians are sent to investigate. Today we discuss the lore from the new weapon and the exotic mission. So let's first start by talking about what happens in the gameplay story-wise. The mission itself is narrated by Sloan, and because of the strike for the voice actors, there is no dialogue and just subtitles. So like me playing through it the first time, I had no idea what was going on. I had to look at the clips I recorded, and only then did some of it begin to make sense along with the new lore card. So let's describe the mission and what Sloan had to say. We first start in the mausoleum fighting Dread. Different Dread units attack us, and there's a boss called the Follower of Power. This gives us a hint right away of what the Dread are after: power. Sloan says it looks like the Dread were trying to perform a ritual of some sort, and notes how this is weird without the witness. Without the witness, what rituals do the Dread do, she says. What do they need? Can't be anything good. Both the Taken and the Dread enemies we see are pursuing a Taken power on board the Dreadnought, and Sloan says we're closing in as we progress through the area. When we enter through the trenchway, we find a Dread commander, and Sloan says, "What on earth? Turning on its own troops? Something's gone wrong here." We see that Dread commander's subjugator surrounded by Taken enemies. The subjugator is called Xir-Kuur, Seeker of Power. We defeat Blight Sentinels and empower the curse to destroy the Blights around the room, allowing us to damage the Seeker of Power. Something cool happens at the end though. The boss teleports us and her inside of a Taken Blight, where we finish her for good. Sloan says that the Dread are the big unknown. The Taken, I understand, more or less. They crave leadership, a will imposed on them. They're drawn to that power. Even if it's not a bigger Taken, it could make a bigger Taken for them. But the Dread, what do they want? The obvious answer is power, but I wonder if it's that simple. As we approach the source of this Taken energy, what the Dread leader was after, Sloan notices that the Taken energy is not flickering anymore. It's blinking in and out, then waxing and waning, and now it's just straight up there. Some of these areas on the Dreadnought look very cool. I think these are Hive Cedar ships in the center, kind of like the ones we saw in the Cosmodrome. Along the walls we see sort of the Taken eyes and bubbles all around the place, and we must complete a couple of puzzles and destroy crystals to make our way through. At the end, we find a room full of Hive magics and familiar Hive runes. We approach the front to find the Barrow-Dyad Exotic, stuck in some chitin that we then pry out with our own hands. It turns out the source of this Taken energy wasn't the weapon itself, but the boss we're about to encounter. Here we find Xir-Kuur, a Hive Knight originally belonging to Xivu Arath's brood. This was a warrior knight who challenged Oryx after Oryx communed with the deep and learned the power to take. During their confrontation, Oryx took Xir-Kuur, but somehow he managed to resist partially as he embraced his power and passed in the sword logic. Thus, their Xir-Kuur would remain aboard Oryx's dreadnought, stuck in this state between life and death, refusing to surrender, yet change forever. This is how you see him in the fight. You fight the taken and non-taken versions of Xir-Kuur. This knight, although sort of imprisoned here by Oryx, still seems very powerful. The Dread sought this taken power for themselves, and in the end we don't even kill him. We seal him inside this room in taken form. I mean, just look how many hive runes were on the outside here. So we may encounter Xir-Kuur sometime in the future, maybe later in Heresy, or some expansion or mission down the line. I, Xir-Kuur of the brood of Xivu-Arath, challenged Oryx. He had communed with the deep and fashioned the bones of the great worm into his dreadnought. So for the sake of the sword, I challenged him, full of the weight of purpose and the hunger for war that drives us all. Take up the knife. Against my sword, there was swallowing emptiness, a void that should have held stars. I thought myself blind. I thought myself dead. Bone mortar to shape the foundation of eternity. Take up the knife. Oryx took me then, but I did not crave what he offered. Take up the knife. It is shaped like unparalleled victory. If it is not done by my own power, it is not earned. Thus has the sword logic ever been taught to us, and thus I have lived. Take up the knife. And so, here I have stayed in this dreadnought, living and not living, taken and not taken. It might have been yesterday, it might have been an eon ago. Take, live, kill, live. I am here. I am power, and I am victory. I am the knife itself. Come, take what you need. Your objective, a new weapon. Others come, and to the taken I say, take me if you can. I am hive. I do not surrender. I do not. We are the knife. From the Taken Grimoire card, Oryx wields this power, but Oryx did not make it. We face the same flower we met in the Black Garden. The process is simple. An aperture opens like a jaw and swallows a living thing. It passes into another place. Later it returns. What returns is, I try to use the word shadow, but Eris hisses at me. A shadow is a flat projection cast by light in an object, less real. Eris insists that these taken are more real somehow. She uses words like inhabited, exalted, rendered final. Is this power blind? Just a natural energy Oryx discovered? I cannot believe it. My hidden tell me that the taken shine with seething negative light, as if the universe is curling up around them, as if they radiate some pathology that decays into our world as nothingness. The taken serve Oryx, but I think those jaws lead elsewhere. That was all the way back in Destiny 1, and as we know, the jaws do in fact lead elsewhere. Many have controlled the Taken over the years. The most notable was the Taken King. Savathun did at some points, and we obviously know the Witness did too. When something is taken like this new boss here, they are ripped from our dimension and brought to the Ascendant Plane, where they are changed forever. Back during Echoes during the Enigma mission, there was text at the left side of the screen from different characters. Failsafe says, when Taken die, where do they go? Ikora says, back to the Ascendant Plane. Then they begin the journey again. So that's the journey of a normal Taken. They are ripped into that dimension of the Ascendant Plane, talked to by a being, presumably the Witness or somebody else now. reshaped in what they believe is a perfect form and sent back into our universe with these new powers. So it's crazy to think that this new boss is halfway through that. Between life and death, half of his original form existing, half of a taken body. Many have tried to challenge Oryx over the years. Xir-Kuur the Darkblade tried to turn on Oryx at one point. He was thrown into the Sunless Cell. Malak tried to take the throne after Oryx's death. Malak was Savathun's son and he was killed by the Guardian. And here we have yet another tale of a Hive warrior challenging the navigator god of the Hive. Oryx truly was the king. I am interested more specifically in the weapon itself. How is it formed, how did it get here, and was it the boss's personal weapon? I'm not sure if we have any news on this, but one thing that caught my attention during the livestream reveal for Heresy was this.
So there are going to be player questions immediately of like, when you're talking about blight and those sorts of keywords, is this a weapon of sorrow?
That's a great question. It is not a weapon of sorrow, but you know, I heard another rumor that this thing is a kind of fossilized precursor to a weapon of sorrow.
Interesting.
But I can't, confirm.
Redacted.
This, yeah.
So the weapons of sorrow are a set of weapons changed by Hive magics. They are super deadly, and sometimes if Guardians get their hands on them, they go a little insane. Think of weapons like the Touch of Malice, Thorn, Necrochasm, or even one of the latest from Witch Queen, the Osteostriga. So I'm not sure if that little hint during the livestream, it being a precursor to the weapons of sorrow, was a fun little thought they had in development or if it actually made it into the game. Let me know if you find anything beyond this. So there you have some of the backstory from the new exotic mission and the Barrow-Dyad lore tab. Do you think we'll see Xir-Kuur sometime in the future, or was this the end of the story for Xivu Arath's knight stuck between life and death? If you'd like to see some more Destiny news, lore, and mysteries just like this video, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. I thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next video.